All right, good morning. Here we are, another day, another Sunday morning. Welcome. So we are going to go back today, okay? We are going to go back into Genesis. We're still into Joseph, right? We've been in Joseph for months, I think, quite a few months, and we are kind of taking side steps and side roads and different things, and we might take another kind of different area today as well. You know, that's just the way that it's just the way that it is, right? I mean, that's just the way that it goes. So what we're gonna talk about, we're gonna go over here to Genesis, and we're gonna be in Genesis 40 just for a touch, and we're gonna just kind of do a recap for the people that weren't here or whatever last week, just a short recap. We were talking about as Joseph is in prison, the butler and the baker. He gives the interpretation of the dream. The butler is going to be lifted up, going to be restored to their position to where they were. The baker is going to be the one that's going to be beheaded. He boldly tells them that this is what's going to happen. The Lord speaks to him about that, tells him that. We talked about last week about letting people know, being honest with people in what, you know, what we tell them, right? Being honest in what we tell them, telling them in love the things that we're going to tell them, right? The thing that keeps kicking me, and, you know, am I good at telling people the truth? I mean, that, hey, man, look, I told them yesterday a few times, man, look, I'm just honest in that. My wife tells me I do it in love, but I do it meanly in love. Does that make sense? That, you know, my daughter tells me that, yeah, you tell me things in love, but you yell it at me. I don't mean to yell it at you. I don't mean to. So my question is, and I'm going back to this again, you look at Proverbs.
The heart's there, it's the delivery.
The heart is there, the delivery is not there. And if people see that I have a heart to tell you the truth, and I'm telling you in love the truth, but I'm yelling that at you, how do you do with that? Not real well, especially daughters, women, right? I'm scary yelling at people. I don't mean to be, but that's just the way it goes. So in love, you're telling them though. So, but what I went over last week, and this keeps kicking me in the teeth, and I'm just going to say it quickly again today. When you look at Proverbs 3, what does that tell us? That when you tell somebody the truth in love, right? When you speak the truth to them, you tell them what the Lord wants them to hear. Do we believe that truth in our own lives when we are reading and speaking the truth to other people? And in Proverbs 3, it tells us what? That you need to trust in the Lord, right? With all your heart. Trust in the things that he says to us. Trust in the things that we tell other people. It tells us to what? Trust the Lord with all our hearts. Don't lean on your own understanding, right? I'm telling you something. I'm telling people something, but do I believe it? You know, when I'm telling my family things, and I'm telling them, but I don't know if I really believe it, man. The Lord gives it to me to tell it. I've got to believe the things that I'm saying, right? Lean not on your own understanding. What does that mean? That I can't do the things that look in my life that I'm trying to speak the truth into my kids' lives or into people's lives. Does it look like that makes sense? You got to believe and lead. You got to believe the things that you're telling. The Bible all the time, the things that we speak don't make sense. They're not logical, right? I mean, the things that the Lord tells us are not logical. When you look around at the world and you look around at the things in the world, and he says, look, I'm in control of all things. I've got it all under control. I'm bleeding. And I look at the world and I say, are you kidding me, man? It looks like you've lost everything, man. I mean, it looks like, don't trust in my understanding. I can see the understanding right here. When I pray for my kids and when I pray for different things, and I have to trust that the Lord knows what he's doing. And I can look at the path that people are going and say, you know what, man, you're screwing this thing up, man, but trust that he knows what he's doing, right? Give him praise. I mean, give him, don't understand on myself, man, and he will lead my path, right? Acknowledge him in all our ways. Lord, I'm doing this for you. I'm going to believe you in what you say. I'm going to acknowledge you in my life. And I know you're going to lead me in the things that I'm going to do and what I should do, right? We have Joseph right here that told the butler and he told the baker, and he said, you know, one's going to get elevated, the butler, one's going to get killed, right? He believed that. But then what did he say to the butler? He said to the butler, when you get to your place, don't forget me. because the Lord said, look, Joseph, I'm telling you, you've been following me. I've been leading you. I know it's hard, but continue to follow me and continue to believe and continue. And Joseph gets to the point where he says, you know what, man, I've been in this situation for so long. I'm done with it, man. I've had enough of it. I'm sitting in this prison cell. I didn't do anything wrong. I don't deserve to be here. When you get to your place of prominence, right? When you get back to the serving of Pharaoh, remember me. Get me out of here. He's trying to outstep what the Lord says and what the Lord tells him to do, right? He's trying to get out of God's timing and get away from that and say, I've waited long enough on you, Lord. And let me ask you, do we get to that point in our lives when I'm sitting in my situation, wherever we are online or here, and I'm like, this does not seem to be getting better, right? This is not getting easier. Lord, I'm serving you. I'm trying to do for you. And here I am, and it keeps falling apart on me, right? And you know what, Lord, I'm done. I'm done waiting on you. And I find that avenue and I find that, way. And I say, you know what, I'm jumping off the boat, man. And I'm going to start following what my mind tells me. I'm going to go on my own understanding. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to follow what the world tells me. I'm getting off of this thing because it's too hard, right? And that's what we do. So when he says to remember him, the question that I was thinking about, what would have happened if he would have remembered him? Now let's think about that for a minute, because he's in prison, right? He gives the interpretation and he says, when you get up there to Pharaoh, remember me and get me out of this place, right? What if the butler had gone up there to Pharaoh and said, hey, man, this guy in prison, he's living right. He looks right. He's telling me he didn't do anything wrong. He doesn't deserve to be in prison. He gave me the right interpretation of the dream. He seems like, he's a stand-up guy. He asked me to remember him. Do you think you can get him out of prison? Would you forgive him and let him go? And Pharaoh says, yeah, well, man, sounds good. He helped you. You're a stand-up guy. You're one of my main men. Yeah, I'll pull him out of prison and let's take him out of prison. So he answers Joseph's prayer of getting out of prison, right? So what happens then? Tell me, where does Joseph go? Sometimes we ask for our prayer to be answered, and we ask the Lord to get us out of a situation. And then when we think about it, we get out of it and we're like, we ask somebody else to get us out of that situation. We think about it and then we get out of it and we're like, okay, what now, man? What am I going to do now, right? God has me in a plan, but when I step outside of his plan, do we have that ability to step outside of God's plan? What has the Lord given us? He's given us free will, right? He says, look, if you want to be stupid, right, and you want to be a knucklehead and you think you know better than I do, go ahead and follow that plan. Go ahead, take that other job. Go ahead and leave. Go ahead and do whatever you're going to do, right? Where does Joseph go? So Joseph says, well, I got no money. I got no place. I got no people over here. I'm going home, right? So he goes and he sees his family, and he doesn't have the restoration with his family the way that it should be, right? He doesn't have a plan on what he's doing. He rolls back in there, right? So what happens when Pharaoh needs something from him and the plan is to go through Joseph? And when we look at our life, do we know, as I sit in my situation that I'm in, that the Lord doesn't have me here, right now, for whatever that is coming up, that he says, look, Chad, I've got you here. I know it's hard on you now, but we're not here because of me. I'm not here. I'm not doing the things that I'm doing because of me, right? The Lord is using me to do his purpose. He says, look, Chad, you're sitting here. I know it's hard on you. I've got a reason for it, right? Because Pharaoh, if he's there and all of a sudden Joseph's gone, and the butler comes up and he says, hey, man, I got a guy that can do, well, where's the guy? I don't know where he's at. I don't know. Can the Lord take care of the famine that's going to come? Can the Lord do? Yes, he can. But how does the Lord want to do that? And what happens in Joseph's life, as you look at Joseph's life and what happens to him? He's over there. Let's say he gets released, right? He goes back home, sitting there with his family. He's back in tending the sheep. He's out there doing his thing. His brothers still don't like him. He's doing whatever. What is he getting the best life? Is he getting his best life back there at home? No, he's not getting his best life, right? He's going to be back home struggling. He's going to be back home doing this. God's saying, look, hang in there right now because I've got a plan for you, and it's better than the plan that you have for yourself, right? And how would he solve the famine problem? How would he be found when Pharaoh came back around to him? Who knows, man, right? We need to stay where we're at and not step outside of ourselves and take the reins into my own hands, because we do not know what God has for us. He figures that out and he says, you know what, man? Okay, I'm here in prison. So this is what I'm going to serve where I'm at, right? We talked about serving where I'm at, doing what God wants you to do, even in the struggle.
It's easy to see somebody else's struggle, but it's hard for us to see our own.
Yes. It is. It's hard for us to see our own struggle, man. You know, and because we're struggling, we want to get out of it. We want to jump ship, right? Other people can look at us. I can look at my kids, and I can say, "Hey, look, man, I'm telling you," and discussion over and over that the things that you may be seeing right now in your life, those may not be the right choices, but you can't see it from an outside perspective. Same thing as Joseph. He's in prison. He's sitting there himself. Lord saying, "Look, I can see the big picture. You can't," right? And that's where he's at.
And somebody said something to Hannah several weeks ago, just about her being anxious. They said, think about the worst thing you've ever been through. And so Hannah thought about it, and that they said, well, would you have changed it? And she said, absolutely not. And she said, well, why? Because that is the catalyst that made a huge change in her life. Or, you know, the worst thing you've been through is the very thing that God will often use to bring you to where he wants you to be and to give you the life that he has for you.
And Hannah told me yesterday, she said, you know, would I change the things that I've gone through, even as hard as they were, would I change them to make it easier on myself looking back? And she said, no, I wouldn't, because everything we go through, the Lord is using in our lives to bring us to the point where he wants us to be. I mean, makes us who we are, right? I mean, you look at Romans 8:28, and it says that all things, right? But all things work together for good to those who love the Lord, right? But it goes on further in 29 and tells you that, look, it goes to bring you into the likeness of Christ, to change you into, to transform you into what? So not just for my good, but it changes me. He is doing that good in my life so that I can become more like him. It's not doing good in my life so that I can be I can have a better position or a better, you know, whatever, right? So Joseph right here, he decides that. Now you look down and it says, yet, and you're in Genesis 40, and we're down in verse 23, and it said, yet the chief butler did not remember Joseph, but he forgot him. And is that not what the world does to us? Is that not what the world does to us? We ask him to remember us. We ask him to help us. We ask him, we put it all out there, and we're doing what we can to help. And we say, look, just remember me. And they forget us, right? And they leave us sitting in the dirt, and they don't really care about us. People don't care about us. I mean, I'm just telling you, people, they just as soon throw us off the bus as anything else. Now, so I'm going to read this, and then we're going to go into a different we're going to go over something else. You know how that goes, man. So Genesis 41, and I want to just read this. Then it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh had a dream, and he stood by the river. So how long was Joseph in prison? 2 years, right? In prison 2 years. This is probably 13 to 14 years after he left his family, that he's been struggling with different things while he's left his family. So my question that I have, did Joseph feel forgotten right here? It says that after 2 years that he was forgotten, and then he was finally remembered. Was the problem in our life, do we feel forgotten? That's my question to you. Do you feel forgotten? Do you feel like the world has forgotten me, that people, I'm doing good, I'm working hard, I'm, you know, doing well in my family, I'm trying with my job, I'm trying to be whatever, and people are forgetting me. And here I am, and I'm just working my thing. So yes, maybe we feel forgotten, but my question is, why are we doing, and this is where I want to go this morning, because the world's going to forget us. The world forgot Joseph. The world's going to forget us. Why do we do the things that we do? That's my question. Why did Joseph decide right here that he was going to spend 2 years in prison? He had asked them to remember him. They didn't remember him. They forgot him. So what did he do? Did he just quit and stop doing and say, I'm done doing? No, he kept on praying, kept on doing. He kept on being spoken to by the Lord because he was able to interpret Pharaoh's dreams, right? Why did he keep doing the things that he was doing? We're going to go over to Colossians, and I want you to go over to Colossians. And this is kind of a off, and a different kind of avenue, but I want to know, why do we do the things that we do in our lives? Is it because we want to get the recognition of the world, or because we want to get why are we doing the things that we're doing? So we're going to look at Colossians, and this is a section that, not my people have an issue with this too. Colossians 3. And I was just going to go down to verse really 23, but I wanted to kind of go through, because this is talking about Colossians 3, and you're looking at Colossians 3:18. And we're going to go through this, and I want you to keep in your mind, why do we do the things that we do? Why do we serve the way that we serve? Why do we love the way that we love? Why do we do what we do? Okay. Because if it is to get the recognition of the world, or the recognition of our family, or the recognition of a higher position at work, we're doing things for the wrong reasons. And how quickly will that burn out? If I'm trying to please my wife, right, and she's not recognizing me, and she's not giving me the what I feel like I need, how long am I going to love my wife? Probably not too long, man. I'm sick of, how, if you're at work and you're doing your work, and they're not recognizing you, how long am I going to work as hard as I'm working, and do as hard as I'm going to do, and bust my tail for them if I'm doing it for myself, right? That's a good question. So let's look at Colossians 3:18. That says, wives, this is where people love this one. Wives, submit to your own husbands as is fitting to the Lord, right? People don't like to hear that. Wives, submit to your husbands as is fitting to. Does this say to submit to me? Does that tell you, to Becky, to submit to me? No, it says, Becky, submit to David. You submit to your own wife as is fitting to the Lord. Now that is, submit to your own wife, your own husband, as is fitting to the Lord, as he would call you to do. That does not mean that you go outside of your own stuff and go unbiblical, and your husband tells you to do whatever, and it's not a biblical thing, and you say, I got to submit. No, who do we submit to first? Who do we submit to first? We submit to the Lord first, right? Then you submit to your husband, and your own husband, and think in your mind, why am I doing the things that I'm doing? Why submit to your own husbands as is fitting to the Lord? It says, husbands, love your wives and do not be bitter towards them. Husbands, love your wives and do not be bitter. How hard is that? When I think about Sharon, and I'm like, I really have to love her, man. Are you kidding me? I mean, come on, man. No, she's great. I mean, I cut up on my wife. No. Husbands, love your wives, right? Do not be bitter towards them. You got something to say over there? I don't know.
I love you, darling, despite you.
Yeah.
I do think people in the world take the whole submission thing out of context when they're not familiar with the Bible. And I think that can be used in a really negative light for Christianity. And I just want to say that when you submit to your husband, they're going to want to do anything and everything for you, and vice versa. And the Bible asks men to submit to God, and to the point that they'd even be willing to die for their wives. So it just frustrates me that gets so taken out of context in the media and in the world. And that's not at all what God means. We're not meant to be doormats. We're not meant to be stepped on, walked on, anything like that. We're God's children. And there's just my 2 cents on that.
A wife is a man's helper too.
Yes, your wife is your helpmate for sure. And when husbands, love your wives, do not be bitter towards them, okay? So it's saying, wives, submit to your husbands. Husbands, love your wives, right? That is in the same context as men want to be respected. Women want to be loved. Is that true? That's what that's saying. That you show them love, they show you respect, right? That's what that's saying. Why do we do the things that we're doing? We're gonna talk about children, obey your parents in all things, but this is well pleasing to the Lord, right? Children, obey your parents. Is that hard to do? Do you do that because you think your parents are right when you obey your parents? My kids tell me, man, you're a knucklehead. You don't know what you're talking about. How am I going to obey you? And you got these stupid laws and you these stupid things, and you're telling me this, and my daughter's 20 and my son's 17. They're like, you're out of, that's old school, man. You don't know what you're talking about. And obey your parents, right? That's what it says. This is well pleasing to the Lord. And this says, this is one that is tough for me right here, right? Ask my family, they'll tell you. What's the next verse say? Fathers, do not provoke your children lest they become discouraged. What is that saying as a father? Don't hammer your kids and discourage your kids and provoke them and try to get them fired up and say things to discourage them. And Sharon tells me all the time, man, that you gotta be better on, I love my kids, but I say things that discourage them, right? And I do things like that, and I don't mean to. I think that's what men do, right? That's what my dad did, discourage me. I'm just telling you, that's what we do, man. Pumpa knows he's here, man. But listen, man, it says obey your parents. Okay, so then you got this one. This is the Freitag blood bond servants. Okay, and then we're going to get into the meat of this. I'm just going, why do we do the things we do? Bond servants, obey in all things your masters. This is talking about slaves and masters, right? But you can also put this into context on your work, right? Workers, obey your bosses, right? You got to think back on Joseph. He's in that prison cell. The Lord saying, look, do the right thing, do what you're supposed to do, not because you believe that you're in the right place or because you feel like you need to be here. Do this because of, we're going to get into it, but it says, bondservants, obey in all things your masters according to the flesh, not according to the flesh. That's talking about obey your position, right? When you work, do your work the way you're supposed to do your work, right? We have a hard time with that. We don't want to do our work. We don't want to fulfill our obligation. Don't want to get a paycheck and don't do the work, right? And it says, but why? This is the question. Not with eye service. What does that mean? So this is saying, wives, submit to your own husbands. Husbands, love your wives. Children, obey your parents. Fathers, don't provoke your children. Bond servants or workers, obey your boss. Not with eye service. What is eye service? What does it mean if I do something for eye service? That's so that you can look at me and say, hey, look how much Chad loves his wife. Look how good. And then I go home and I dog her and I talk about her and I don't love her the way that I should. Or she's out in public and look at how much Sharon listens to her husband or respects her husband. Or look at how much your kids obey you. And then they get behind your back and they're doing all kinds of crazy stuff and out of control and whatever. Do it not with eye service is what it says, right? It says as men pleasers, but in sincerity of heart. Why is Joseph continuing to serve in the prison cell? In sincerity of heart, because he does that because that's what God has called him to do. We do the things that we do because God has called us to do those in sincerity of heart. And it says fearing God. What does it mean to fear God? We need to do everything that we do as Christians because we fear God. Now, what is the context of fearing God right there? Am I afraid that he is going to throw a lightning bolt down from heaven and stick me in the head and he's going to wipe me out? Is that the fearing God? That is a fear that, is he able to do that? He could do anything he wanted to do, right? That is not the fear. Why should my kids obey and do, and why should I love my wife, and why should she submit to me? Because she fears God, because she loves God, because we know what his word says. And that's the best thing that we can do is by fearing him and doing it for God. We will never be able to fulfill our obligations in our families, in our jobs, in our relationships, in anything, unless we do it for the Lord first, because I will get burnt out. I get burnt out at work, right? And I lose my testimony. I get burnt out with my wife sometimes, and I lose my testimony. She gets burnt out with me, right? Do it because you fear God. And it says, do it in sincerity of heart, fearing God, and whatever you do, do it heartily as to the Lord and not to men. What does it mean to do it heartily? What does that mean to do it heartily? How should we be as Christians, as examples when we do things? How do you do your schoolwork at work? How do I do my job how do I do my job as a parent? When it talks about do it heartily, that means fully, right? Fully do what you're going to do. Fully serve, fully attend, fully do whatever, heartily as to the Lord. And it says, knowing that from the Lord, you will receive the reward of the inheritance. And what is that saying? As Joseph sits in that prison cell, right? as he doesn't belong. He doesn't feel like he needs to be there. He didn't deserve that. He didn't whatever. And the Lord saying, look, you're there. I want you to stay there. I've got a plan for you. Is he going to get the reward of men? Maybe, maybe not, right? Am I going to get the reward of men or the reward of whoever when I do the things that I'm doing for the Lord? Maybe or maybe not. What does it say? Why do I do the things that I'm going to do? Who is the one that's going to bless us? Who is going to bless us? We got to get out of this thing on, I'm only going to do it. I'm only going to serve. I'm only going to love you if I get something in return out of that, right? That's the way the world is doing. That's the way that people are doing. It leads you to emptiness. Yes. You do it for the wrong reasons, and they're going to let you down. I mean, when you do things for the men and for seeking their benefit and their reward, that we're going to be let down. The Lord is our inheritance, right? He is the one that sees what we does. He is the one that keeps the balances and says, okay, man, these are the things that you've done for me. And I'm telling you what, you're going to get rewarded by this. You just got to keep on going. You may not see it right now, but you're going to get rewarded. If we don't, we'll never be able to keep on keeping on. I'm telling you, because if I keep thinking that my job and they're going to promote me and they're going to do this, or my kids are going to love, whatever, man, you may never see that, but God sees it, right? And it says, do it heartily to the Lord. You will receive the reward of the inheritance, for you serve the Lord, right? For we serve the Lord Christ. We are doing it because we serve the Lord Christ. That's good, man. That's why, and this is what it says as you go further in this. It says, but he who does wrong will be what? Will be repaid. I don't need to seek justice when I don't feel like. That's like, think about Joseph, right? When he gets to his point of prominence, when he is delivered out of prison, when he is brought back up beside Pharaoh, and we're going to talk about that. What if he decided, he said, you know what, man, the butler up here, I'm going to tell you what, I sat in prison for 2 years because you forgot about me. And I'm going to tell you what, now that I'm above you, I'm going to hammer you. And now you're going into prison because you made me sit in the prison. How do we do our life? Do we think that we need to seek our own vengeance when people do us wrong? Because that's what we do in our life, right? You did me wrong. I'm gonna tell you what, and it could be just like these little, what do you call that, Sharon? When you do it kind of on the side or behind, it's vengeful, but passive aggressive, right? I'm gonna do it passively aggressively. I might be at work, but I'm gonna tell you what, man, my boss isn't giving me the credit, so I'm gonna do a halfway job. I'm going to steal this from work. I'm going to take a few pounds. I'm going to take, or in my family, well, my wife's not giving me what I think I deserve. So on the side, outside everyone, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to get what I think I need, right? We don't need to repay. The Lord is our advocate, right? The Lord sees all things that happen, and the Lord is the one that's going to repay for us, right? I mean, that's a hard thing to do, but we need to wait for that. We need to believe in that, right? There is a judgment, right? There's a judgment seat of Christ. We can't talk about that. There's a white throne judgment. Judgment seat of Christ is for Christians that have made it, that he's saying, look, I see this pile that you did for me. You did all this for me, and here's your reward. You did this for man. I'm going to burn that up. And that doesn't make any, there's a white throne judgment that says, look, you never believed in me. You never followed me. I'm sorry, but depart from me, and you're done. And everlasting judgment, right? I mean, so do that. And it says there is no partiality with God. He knows exactly what every motive is. He knows exactly why we're doing. So one more thing on this that I want to, and this is something I want you to turn over. Why are we doing the things that we're doing? Because we love God. Because that is our motivation. We may be in the pits right now. It may be tough in our life. It may be hard, but we need to stick it out because we love God. And Lord, I'm doing this for you. And I've talked to Sharon about a situation that she has with a person in her life. And I say, why is that person still hanging in there and doing what she's doing? Because she's honoring God in what she does. If we had more people that would honor God in their lives and follow him, we would have more people out there that were following God and saying, you know what, that person's an example. And they can do it in that situation. I can do it in my life. I can stick it out, and I can I'm just telling you, turn over here and this is, I want you to Revelation, okay, Revelation. We're going to turn over here, Revelation 3. And this will kind of talk to you right here. Revelation 3. We're going to go to verse 14. Okay. When I talk about doing it heartily to the Lord, doing it fully for the Lord, living our life fully for what he would have us to do. Okay. Now let's look at the flip side of that. Revelation 14, and I'm sure that a lot of us have heard this before, but it bears repeating. Revelations 3:14. It says, and to the angel of the church of Laodicean, I don't know how to say that, Laodicean, write these things, says he, Amen, the faithful and the witness, the beginning of the creation of God. This is the Lord speaking. This is in red. This is he's speaking to this church, and he's saying, I know your works, that you are neither cold nor hot. I want you to think about that. You are neither cold nor hot. That you say you're a Christian, right? Joseph's in prison. He says he's a Christian, but he's acting, he's mad that he's not out of prison. I'm going to serve the Lord halfway, but I'm still going to be mean. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be that. Neither cold nor hot. How do we do our life? When we go to serve the Lord, we do it. Do we sit on the fence? Right? I mean, I've talked to many people about this. When he talks about cold or hot, man, are you sitting on that fence? And I'm going to kind of follow the Lord in this, but then I'm going to kind of follow the world in this, and I'm going to kind of sit on that fence. What does God say to us about that? How does the world see us when I sit on that fence and I'm neither cold nor hot? I'm just a kind of a halfway Christian, because that's what we are, right? We never take a stand on anything, right? We never take a stand on anything. And as a Christian, we need to take a stand. You're considered a hypocrite. I'm not going to that church because you're a bunch of hypocrites over there. I see the way you worship in church, or you worship out here, or you say, and then I see you out here in the way that you live and the way that you cuss this person, or the way that you did this. And I've got to check myself a lot on that with my temper and my attitude and blah, 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 man. Now, look, man, I'm telling you to love everybody, and you go to, hell. And then I go out here and I'm like, you knucklehead, man, I'll rip you off that bike. I was coming home, and John's a witness, man, going yesterday in the car, driving up there, man. I'm trying to get this on the Sunday school. I might run over. I'm on the Sunday school trip, and I'm cruising up there, and we're going, and I'm like, hey, we're doing good, man. We're cruising, listening to music and hanging out. And someone gets in front of me in the car, and I'm like, what the, you knucklehead? And I'm trying to swear. And John's like, chill out, Chad, chill out, man. You're going to be okay. And I'm like, I'll tell you what, get out of my way. And I'm like, you're going to a Sunday school trip, man, trying to serve the Lord. And here you are, right? Lukewarm.
What about the drive-through? What about the drive-through?
Sharon says in the drive-through.
No, yesterday in the drive-through.
Yeah, I got fired up in the drive-through, man. I had to leave, and then we never got to eat it. I took off and whatever on the drive-through. That's my life, man, right? That's my life. That was my choice. So neither hot nor cold, right? This is what I'm trying to tell you, that it says, I wish you were either hot or cold, right? The Lord wishes that we were hot, on fire for him, doing what he would have us to do, serving him, being a witness, being faithful. He wants us to be either hot or cold. I don't love you at all. I'm not going to follow you at all, because what happens? He does not want a church full of a bunch of hypocrites. You get hypocrites in the church. They come in, they start veering people other ways. They start, mixing things up, and it starts messing things up. I wish you were either hot or cold. And what does it say? It says, so then because you are lukewarm, because you are a hypocrite, because you are a halfway Christian, right? What does he say he's going to do? You're neither hot nor cold. I will vomit you out of my mouth. That's the way the Lord looks at us, man. How are we going to serve? Why are we serving the way that we serve? Why is Joseph in that prison cell, even though the circumstances have gone against him, even though he doesn't feel like he deserves to be there, even though the butler forgot about him, he is serving. That is Revelation 3:14. That is, you are neither hot nor cold. I'd rather vomit you out of my mouth. I'd rather puke you out than you be a halfway Christian. That's hold on.
praying and, you know, God on this and that. But is there not a verse somewhere in the Bible that goes on with this? That
John's
if you're
asking.
not a Christian and you're not saved, is God listening to your prayers?
The question is that if you're not a Christian and you're not saved, is God listening to your prayers? The prayer that he's listening to is, Lord, forgive me and accept me into your house and allow me to follow you. If you are not a Christian, then he wants to hear that you are accepted first, right? Then he's going to answer your prayers, right? That's a so lukewarm Christian. So that is, why are we doing the things that we're doing? And, you know, how long are we willing to wait in the situation that we're in, right? How long is Joseph willing to wait in the situation he's in, right? He's been in prison 2 years. He's been over there 13 years. He's still trying to serve the Lord, right? And it tells us over there in Ephesians 4, and it says, how do we wait, right? You wait humbly, right? You wait. Just wait for God, man, humbly, and walk your path and do your thing the way that he would have you to do it. We don't wait fired up and mad. And, you know, Lord, I'm going to wait for you, but I'm telling you what, I'm mad about it and I don't want to wait for you. And that's just not. So let's move on. Okay. So that's just something. How are we waiting, and why are we waiting and doing the things that we're doing? And if we're doing them for any other reason besides the Lord, then I'm telling you, it's no good. He'd rather puke us out of his mouth, man. He wants us to serve him and to be faithfully serving him. So you look over here in 41. So 2 years, Joseph is in this prison cell, right? Being forgotten, serving God because he loves God and he wants to do that. Then all of a sudden, what happens? Pharaoh had a dream. This is Genesis 41. We're back over in Genesis 41. It says Pharaoh had a dream. Who is Pharaoh? He is the leader. He is the head. He is the king, right, of Egypt. Says he had a dream, and I'm going to read this dream. And it says, behold, he stood by the river. There was a camp. There came up out of the river 7 cows, fine and good looking and fat. These 7 fat cows came up out of the river, and it says, and then behold, 7 other cows came up after them, ugly, gaunt, stood by the other cows on the bank, and it says the ugly and gaunt cows ate up the 7 fine looking cows. Right? You have 7 fat cows that are up there eating and doing their thing. Then all of a sudden you have 7 thin, ugly, nasty looking cows come up and they eat these 7 fat cows. That's one of the dreams. Okay. And it says, then he woke up, right? And it says, and he fell back to sleep. And you look over here and it says in verse 5, so he awoke and it says he slept and he dreamed a second time, and 7 heads of grain came up to one stalk, plump and good. Then behold, 7 thin heads, blinded from the east wind, sprang up after them, and the 7th head devoured the 7 plump and full heads. You have grain coming up. You have, 7 good heads, and then all of a sudden these thin, nasty, whatever came up and they devoured them. Right? This is a dream that he had. It says, so Pharaoh awoke. Indeed, it was a dream. Now it came to pass in the morning, his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for who? Who do you call for? And this is something that the Lord troubled him in this dream. He showed him a dream 2 times, 2 different dreams, the same meaning. And he said, look, he woke him up and Pharaoh's like, I can't get this out of my head. Is there anything that you ever have in your life that you're like, the Lord just keeps on hammering you and you're like, I just can't, I need to find an answer for this thing. I need to find what. So where did he go? It says that he sent and he called for who? Because this is Pharaoh. This is Pharaoh doesn't know the Lord, right? And it says he called for the magicians of Egypt, the wise men, the sorcerers, all the people that he knew that could answer and do that. Did they have an answer? What is the question that I come out of with this? When something is going on in our life, right? When we are having trouble in our life, when something is wrong, right? When I need an answer, as a Christian, who are we calling on? Are we calling on Facebook and going out to Instagram, Facebook? Out here, I'm going to my job and I'm asking the gossip group over here that I have a concern. You're asking kids in your class that, hey, I got whatever it is. Do we ask those people? What is the answer that they're going to give us? Why are we having such a problem? Because they're going to give us the worldly answer. They're going to give us what you need to hear, right? What you want to hear. They're going to fill you full of a bunch of junk that doesn't even. That's what Pharaoh did. He went to these guys and he said, look, man, this is a big deal that the Lord's showing him. And Pharaoh went to these magicians and these people that he thought could answer him because that's all he knew. And it says right here, it says that, and Pharaoh said, told them the dreams, but there was no one who could interpret them for Pharaoh. The Lord said, this is something that only God can interpret. This is only going to come by what the Lord is telling you. When we look at our lives and we look at the things that are going on in our lives, we need to be asking the counsel of the right people, right? Which is what? Godly people that you know, which is the Bible, which is prayer, which is people that are leading, right? We need to go to them. We don't need to go to Facebook. I don't need to go over here to my lost friends. I don't need to go to the world and ask them biblical, scriptural, Christian things, because they're going to tell me, man, you need to leave this situation. You need to quit this job. You need to leave your house. You need to, whatever it is they're going to tell you, right? We don't need that. Okay. He went, and this is where Joseph's been waiting for 2 years. And all of a sudden it says right here, and it says, and it came to pass after his spirit was troubled. It says in verse 9, this is Genesis 41:9. Then the chief butler spoke to Pharaoh saying, I remember my faults this day. Let me tell you what, we can, and Sharon said it, she had a guy in high school before she was ever saved, before she ever knew the Lord, before anything, that used to have her listen to Christian music and Christian tapes and different things, and used to try to witness to her, right? But this dude's crazy, man. I mean, she never listened to it. She never followed it. This dude's a lunatic, right? He's a fanatic, right? And then what? After she gets saved, after the Lord shows her, she says, you know what, man? That dude actually knew what he was talking about. Let me tell you what, as we give our counsel as Christian, godly people, right? Some sow, right? Some water, some reap. What does that mean? I may be the one to tell you about the Lord. I may be the one to tell you the Lord has a different plan for your life, right? You may take that and say, you're crazy. You're a fanatic. I mean, I've had many people tell me that you're a Jesus freak. You're a whatever, however you want to put it. Some sow, some water. Somebody else comes up to that same person and says, hey man, the Lord can take care of that problem if you just listen to them and they kind of water that thing and they feed that thing. And then it comes up later on, that same person, they get reaped or harvested, and look, they get saved and they become a believer, right? Right here he's saying they come back to him and says, look, I remember that there's a dude down there that was following the Lord, and that the things that he said to me were true, and I can bring him to you. You never know, and that's a good thing and an encouragement in our lives. We do not know what we say to people that may come back around, good or bad, that they're going to remember and say, I remember when you told me this, and now I can see it in my life, and now I see where it applies to my life. You can do that on the good thing. You can also do it on the bad thing. I got Hannah tells me all the time, well, you said this. And I'm like, I didn't really say that. Oh yeah, you did. And I remember you said that, right? Well, I didn't mean that. I didn't, right? That goes both ways. Right here is saying that I remember a God that can do this. So this is where, and we're getting close to time, but this is where, as we look at it, Joseph is now at 13 to 14 years in captivity, right? Still following the Lord, still doing what the Lord wants him to do, still being faithful. He had one time where he kind of went outside and said, try to get me out of here, and it didn't work. And so he's back following the Lord, right? After this amount of years, he is finally remembered, right? We do not know how long it may take when God says, okay, I'm ready to use you now. All this stuff, when it talks about Romans 8:28, he is preparing us in the situation that we're in, right? He's preparing us. All things work together for good. I'm transforming you to the image of Christ. I'm trying to make you what you need to be. I'm trying to give you the tools that you need to live your best life, right? I'm trying to give you those tools, because one day, I'm telling you, it's going to come back on you when somebody says, I remember you, man, and you have the tools to help them. Now Joseph is right here. He's down in prison. He's just hanging out. He doesn't know what's going on, right? He's like, I'm going to be here forever. This is my plight. I'm going to be in prison forever. The butler forgot me. I've been here 2 years. I'm just going to continue to serve where I'm at. And all of a sudden, Joseph is well, it says right here, then the chief butler said, he said, I remember my faults this day. This is in verse 10. When Pharaoh was angry with his servant, put me in custody of the house of the captain of the guard, me and the chief butler. And he said, we had a dream. According to the interpretation, there was a young Hebrew in verse 12, Genesis 41:12, young Hebrew man with us They're a servant of the captain of the guard. We told him, he interpreted our dream. Each man he interpreted according to his own dream, and it came to pass. So what did it say down here when you look at verse 14? It said, then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph. Now, this is when Joseph's life changes, right? How quickly are we ready for the change? And that's a good question, that as the Lord is preparing me in the situation that I'm in, whether you're young, whether you're old, whatever, he's preparing you for something, right? He's preparing you for something. Are we going to be ready? Are we learning in the situation that we're in? Are we studying? Are we serving? Are we doing? Are we learning? So that when that situation comes up and the Lord pulls us out and says, now is your time. Are you ready to serve me? Because I'm pulling you out. Did Joseph have any time right here? It was, look at what it says right here. It says, then Pharaoh sent, called Joseph. They brought him quickly out of the dungeon, and he shaved, changed his clothing, came to Pharaoh. Man, they went down there 2 years. He's hanging out. He's at 14, number 14 years over there. And all of a sudden, he's like, my life's never going to change. Screw it. I'm just going to do what I'm doing. He goes down there and he jerks him up and says, your day has come, man. Now's the time. We're going to shave you. We're going to cut your hair. We're going to put a new change of clothes on you, right? He already had one change of clothes, right? When they took him out of the pit, drug his clothes off him, right? He had another change of clothes when he was over there in Potiphar's house, and the wife grabbed him and said, you're coming with me, man. And he said, oh no, I'm not. They ripped his clothes off him. Then now he's in prison, and they're like, here you go, man. Now you have a change of clothes. This change of clothes is for your benefit, and this is going to be a good change, right? He's already had these 2 other times where he's like, it's gotten worse. Now it's like, okay, now your time's come. Now I'm going to use you, right? I don't know. Are we learning in the situation that we're in? Are we studying when we're in the pit, when we're in the prison, when we're not where God wants us? Are we losing our faith, or are we growing in our faith? Right? That's a good question. So it says he pulled him up. So I'm not going to read the dream again to you, but it says that he read the dream to him. Now it says over here, let's go back over at Genesis 41:25. Genesis 41:25. As he's pulled up, as Pharaoh reads the dream or says the dream to him, it says, Joseph said to Pharaoh, the dreams of Pharaoh are one. He's saying these 2 dreams that you had are one dream, right? They're only one dream, but they two different ways they were presented, but they're the same dream. And it says, God has shown to Pharaoh what he is about to do. He says, look, it isn't me who's shown this. It is God who's shown you what he's going to do. It is God who is going to interpret this dream. Even after that many years, Joseph still is giving credit to God, right? That's showing that where he was at, he has not lost his faith, and he's still following the Lord, right? He's still following the Lord. So he tells him, what does anybody know? What are and I don't know if we have time to get, but we'll start. What are the dreams entailing when he talks about the 7 cows, fat cows, and the 7 thin cows, eat the fat cows, the 7 big things of wheat, and then the 7 thin things of wheat, eat the wheat. What's he talking about? Famine, right? Not only famine, he's talking about you're going to have 7 good years, right? You're going to have 7 plenteous years. Everything's going to go great. You're going to be blessed. You're going to be, and he says, but I'm telling you what, after that time, it says you're going to have 7 years of famine, 7 years where you're hammered, 7 years where you can't pay the bills, right? 7 years where you can't pay the bills, where you can't make it, where you can't do. And he said, he's shown you this. And it says down here, it says, and the dreams down in verse 32, Genesis 41:32, and the dream was repeated to Pharaoh twice, because the thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. So this is, he's bringing him up, and he's saying, okay, now is your time. He quickly jerked him up out of prison to interpret this dream. Joseph tells him and gives him the interpretation of the dream, and he says, look, this thing's on you. So he didn't have a period to get up there with Pharaoh and to kind of hang out and get used to the climate and get used to the change. And he said, no, man, your time is now, man. I need you to make a decision on what we need to do now. I need you to do something now. When the Lord pulls us out of where we're at, we immediately need to be able to do what he has called us to do, right? We're praying about, Lord, save my brother, save my husband, deliver this person, right? And then the Lord does it, and that person comes to me and says, let me ask you about the Lord and about this situation. And what do I, and we, and I've been praying about it, but I don't know how to speak to that person about it, right? When God gives us the opportunity, you never know if you're going to have that opportunity again. We need to be ready to speak when the opportunity presents itself, right? When somebody comes up and says, what should I do in this situation? We need to be able to tell them godly advice because we've been reading our Bible, because we've been prepared, because we are being transformed to the image of Christ. That's what Joseph is. He's ready, right? He's ready for the interpretation. He's ready to give an answer. So we're gonna, what time is it? 10:23. So this is the answer. This is the answer that he gives. Okay. It says he's telling him this is telling you what the Lord is about to do. He said, you're gonna have 7 years of great plenty. This is up in verse 29, Genesis 41:29. 7 years of great plenty will come throughout all the land of Egypt, but after then 7 years of famine will arise, and all the plenty will be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and all the famine will be depleted, and all the famine will deplete the land. So the plenty will not be known in the land because of the famine following it, for there will be severe, it will be very severe. He's saying, look, you're getting ready to go into a time that is going to be hard, right? The question, and we'll talk about this, and I want you to think about this, is what kind of a society do we live in? What kind of a society do we live in? And I'm talking about a financial thing right here, because we need to think about this. Financially, I want a big screen TV, and you ask me why, how does this relate to one to the other? I want a big screen TV. Man, I'm gonna tell you what, I can't afford a big screen TV. But you know what, man? I deserve a big screen TV because I've been working hard, and I deserve a new car. I deserve a new house. I deserve a new whatever. So you know what, man? I got a credit card. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to buy that. All right. Is that the society we live in? Is that what we do? I can't afford it, but I'm going to buy it anyway because I deserve it. You don't deserve it, man. If you can't afford it, you don't deserve it. Sorry. I mean, that's just life, man. And I tell my kids, man, look, it's great if you can go out and buy this, then go buy it. But if you don't have the money to buy it, then wait. We are in an immediate justification and an immediate gratification society, right? The question that I want to ask you, and everybody in here, I don't know how we are financially, right? I don't know how everybody in here is financially, where you're at, what you're doing. How do we do in the times of plenty? Because and I'm not going to go political. I'm not going political, but I'm just telling you, how do we do in the times of plenty, when we're doing well with the things that we have? Am I going out and buying a new car? Am I going out and doing, and I have a story with Andrew that I tell Andrew, man, you need to put money in the bank, right? My son. No, man, I'm gonna go tint my windows on the car. I'm gonna go buy a new sound system. Man, I want to get new rims, and I want to do. I said, man, put some money in the bank, man. Okay. Yeah. There's another day, right? So anyway, so he's in his car, right? Backing out of the garage, clips his side view mirror, right? Rips it off the car. So I said, well, that's something that is necessary on a car, right? So you're going to need to buy a new mirror, right? He says he has $120 in the bank. It costs $120, man. Right? He goes and I said, let me look at the mirror. I got it, Dad. I know what I'm doing. He orders a mirror, right? We get the mirror in the mail. Wrong mirror, right? Does not fit. So now he has a mirror that does not fit. He has a broken mirror on his car, and he has no money in the bank.
It's being held on with duct tape, flopping.
Held on with duct tape.
School is about to start, and he wants to look cool.
3 days. And he's like, man, I do not want to go to school with a mirror hanging on with duct tape. This is my, my first car. And I said, okay, man. I said, well, then get you another mirror, man. Send that mirror back and get another mirror. And he said, well, I can't send it back. I can send it back, but I can't buy another mirror because I don't have enough money in the bank, and they won't credit me for the amount on the first mirror until they get it, they evaluate it, they do whatever. And I said, well, how long is that? Well, about 2 weeks. He said, can you lend me $150 so that I can buy that other mirror? And I said, do you have that money in the bank? No. Have I told you for 2 months to save money and put it in the bank and not buy rims and yeah? I cannot do that, man. And I'm not going to do it. Roll to school with your car duct tape flapping. And that's a life lesson. So my question is, and we're going to talk, I want you to think about, I'm going to bring up a couple of scripture verses next week on how are we doing with our finances. This is very pertinent right here, because the land of Egypt, they're going to go into a time of plenty, right? They're going to go into a time where they have more than they need. They're going to have an abundance. The Lord may be giving us an abundance in a time. Does that mean I spend every dollar that I have? This is something for, I mean, if they taught the younger kids that, then us older kids wouldn't have to deal with the problems we're dealing with. And they say that how much is the financial debt, and an average household is $10,000, $15,000 in credit card debt, and this, and I'm sure there's people on here in credit card debt. I mean, that's the way we are. The Lord is showing him, look, I'm showing you a plan. This is what you need to do. And next week, Joseph is going to lay out the plan to Pharaoh and say, this is how we need to do this. We need to prepare in our lives, right? What we are going to do when things fall apart, because things are going to fall apart. Not just now, I'm just talking things in our life are going to fall apart. How are we preparing to deal with those things? That's what we're going to go over next week. We're going to start on that. We're going to go over, and then this is Joseph's switch. I mean, this is when he's like, Pharaoh says, man, you've been thinking about it. Now I haven't been thinking about it, but the Lord's been speaking to me. He's been telling me that things are coming, and I'm giving this interpretation, and here's the thing that we're going to do, right? Pharaoh sees him as a godly person, sees the Lord is with him, and propels him up, right? That's where we're going next week. Anyway, that was yeah, okay. I'm hitting the stop on this thing if I can find it. I hope everybody has a great week. I'll talk to y'all in a minute. Where do I stop this thing, man?